Hello, people of the internet. That's right, it's a small YouTuber back with an opinion which you're either going to fully agree with or you're going to hate because, I mean, you know, you gotta get views by saying something controversial. But I believe in human rights, unfortunately. My controversy here is over the Minecraft updates. That's right, so if you hadn't noticed, they have been looking into some pretty drastic changes in the way essentially the whole Minecraft update system works just in general. And that's mainly to do with the fact that they have the whole drop system. That's nothing new. But of course, that does lead to these drops being much smaller in scale, and of course, much... I can't believe I actually just fell off there. I just hit... Okay. These drops are much smaller in scale, which of course does make them kind of lackluster, because it essentially just means we get a bunch of ideas which, again, in my opinion, don't really feel like they get built on really at all. And so it just kind of, it leaves a little to be desired. And I expressed this in my last video pretty poorly because I wrote it, I actually started ranting without a script, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. So I'm, you know, trying to, I'm washed. I am washed. I'm playing this with my right hand currently in stitches. It's a long story, but, you know, cut me some slack. I'm playing this 1.5 handed. We have a lot of updates where people are, you know, getting all of these new blocks, or there's a new mechanic potentially introduced, or a new biome in the case of the most recent one with the dappled forest. And my problem I have with it isn't even to do with the content itself. I'm gonna be honest, I love the dappled forest. Just in general, like as a concept, I've kind of messed around with it in the latest snapshot, and honestly, I do kind of vibe with it. It's a cozy kind of autumn biome, basically. My main gripe is just kind of with the way foliage now no longer requires shears for some reason, so we have this weird divide where old things like tall grass still require, you know, shears or silk touch or something along those lines in order to actually be harvested. But of course, you can still always just pick up some random bushes just by punching it for some reason. And that's where I've started to disagree. But because generally with the way it works is it's just kind of, it's one or the other. And this was the kind of the crux of my issue with it last time. There's a bunch of updates which aren't really being added to. They're just more kind of, they're almost going to do something, but they don't quite do it. And for example, with, again, the not deciding whether or not they, you know, want shears to be fully used when harvesting, like, you know, shrubbery, or if, you know, if it should be silk touch, or if in general they should just be something that drops full stop when you just, you know, without any sort of specialist tool. And there is some credence lent to it just because of the fact that we have bundles now, which I guess do somewhat reduce the kind of the general early game heavy load of just having a bunch of random stuff in your inventory about 2 minutes after entering the game, purely just because, you know, oh, it looks nice. Because here we have the new shelf mushroom blocks, because they come in two varieties here. You got this one and this one. I think if I just place these, oh, okay, there we go. It turns into 3. I didn't actually know that. But of course, you can just pick these up, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, no problem, without any specialist kind of tool. And same with these red shrubs, which, again, their selling point is they're red no matter what biome they're in. And I guess that's kind of cool, because of course it's not like grass, which might be affected dependent on the biome, which I do kind of like. But again, just why do we, you know, why can we pick this up with shears, and we do, you know, we need shears for this, but not this. So, like, you know, all of this that just turns into seeds. And again, I think the game mechanic of it dropping seeds as an alternative if you don't use shears is the reason there. Because again, this lends credence to my problem where I believe Mojang doesn't really want to develop features further because they're afraid that it would impact their current drop system. So kind of to expand on this, what I mean is Mojang will release a feature, let's say the sniffer, and of course the sniffer has literally one feature. So you get the sniffer egg from Trial Ruins, and so that was an expansion on Trial Ruins, but then the sniffer in and of itself can just walk around on mud and occasionally give you 2 plant, variants, which is cool. I like the idea because it's like, oh, ancient plants, ancient seeds, right? But then there's nothing to do with that. There's, not a potion, not a dye, not a use. It's just purely decorative. And I have nothing against decorative. Personally, I guess I would fall into the builder category because that is what I spend most of my time doing. But it is a purely decorative item, and it just kind of ends up with this weird non-use. Before I ramble too long, I've kind of messed around with the trees here. So in my previous video, I did state I wasn't sure how it was going to work, like if it would be kind of location specific on deciding what variant of tree it would be, because of course you get red, orange, and yellow, and all of these drop their respective colored leaf. So that is kind of cool. Again, my problem is on one hand, them dropping their respective color of leaf is great because you can now customize and you have that option. But also then the problem is inventory space, where now each one of these colors of leaf are going to just take up an extra inventory space. But I guess, to play devil's advocate here, these kind of cozy autumn blocks are going to be something you collect, of course, later in the game. And there's some slight nuance because of the way the poplar trees were generating. But I believe that was resolved in the previous snapshot, but I may be wrong on that. And if I am, then I guess it's my duty to put down editing. So yeah, I say it out loud, so then I force myself to actually edit it and not be lazy. It's a smart tactic. But of course, they generate with these shelf mushrooms on there, and I kind of like the shelf mushroom, and I just like mushrooms in general. And I believe this does come with the fact that you can now use any combination of mushrooms to make mushroom stew, which I personally love. This is something I am going to applaud. So of course you can use shelf mushrooms, which you can find abundant in the poplar forest. You've got red mushrooms, which you can find scattered across the overworld, as well as brown mushrooms. So you can do the very classic. You can of course sub the red out for the brown, and of course you can just have it like this. I'm not sure you can oh, okay, so there we go. It is just 2 of any mushroom type. That's actually rather interesting. I didn't actually know that. I like this because it stops it from being this, oh, you need one of these and one of these, and, let's throw in one of these. So it essentially just makes mushroom stew less of kind of a useless item. It does still, it's not the most useful item, but it becomes more functional in the actual game mode. You don't have to go out of your way purely just to use it because you decided you did, or if you want a mushroom island, maybe then. I feel like that's how most players actually interact with it. This is gonna be a really minor feature, but I kind of played around with the poplar trees, and again, just pointing out the way they generate with these kind of outcropping logs. And I think this is actually Mojang actually genuinely looking into the way players interact with the game, because of course if you have the grandfather oak tree, if you will, the big oak tree, then that has the issue of the way leaves generate. Let me give you a live example of this real quick. See, if we look at this here oak tree, you're going to notice the kind of the intricacies, and I guess this does make for an overall cooler looking oak tree. It gives you these more interesting shapes, and of course if you strip down the leaves to be kind of more bare, you end up with these more interesting patterns. And I like the look of that and all, but I will admit it is pretty bad. There's a whole reason why most people avoid mining them. It takes way too much time, and everyone's experienced the just masses of leaves floating in a forest nearby your house in Minecraft because you missed one log. So the way they've done it here is there's only a single outcrop and it's attached to this kind of main stem, the main kind of log. And I like that. It's a very minor feature, but I actually believe it does kind of have a major impact because it encourages you to have these larger trees and still have them be reasonably mineable, with it from a gameplay perspective. And of course, one final thing on these mushrooms, just if you didn't love them enough as much as I do, they're bouncy. Now, I believe they're about as bouncy as like a bed or something, but they bounce. And who doesn't love a good old whimsical mushroom? I know I sure do. And of course, there's been a few changes listening to player feedback for once, and mainly when it comes to the Poplar color of wood, because initially it looked very much alike the pale oak. It doesn't as much now, and it gives this kind of nice gray look. It is still quite similar to pale oak, but they've actually distinguished it to this kind of more neutral gray, which I do kind of like the look of. I think it adds more, and it does kind of give a nice difference between just regular wood and the completely white pale oak. The fact that it's another gray block. It's another gray block. We didn't have enough gray blocks before. Oh yeah, we needed more gray blocks to put in our building so we can make things look more like stone. You've probably heard I'm very late to the party. But again, my hand was being stitched up, so you can't blame me. The cushions. Look at this. You know how much of a dream it was for me to be able to sit on my bed as a child? So there is multiple features. I'm just demonstrating a very minor use in, and that is just putting it here. And the way they work is very interesting because, of course, these cushions are actually entities, much like item frames. So they kind of function halfway between a block and an entity, hence why we're able to do it here. Now, this is actually a very interesting thing because it has a unique property which no other block does, and that is actually, down to the pixel you can place. So if I place a trapdoor here and I, place it on top, you can just about see, I'll need to get in the ground here, you can just about see it floats on top there. Now, I have seen concerns raised mainly over things like this, because this is, a stair block with the cushion kind of lodged in between here, stacked up. Cushion stacking is kind of both allowing a lot of customization, but also allowing, Minecraft to have that it feels kind of modded element to it, because you show this to someone, like go back in time and show this to someone in 2014, show it to someone, heck, show it to someone when they've just announced, the update Aquatic. They will be confused by this right here, wall stairs, wall slabs, wall cushions. This genuinely looks like I installed the furniture mod from, way back when. The cushions in Minecraft operate on a, entity in kind of a case-by-case basis, so there's no set height unlike most blocks where they will always be that height no matter what. But cushions are allowed to go to any height they wish. And here we have it, cushion stacking. So you've got this whole smorgasbord of height you can have, and this isn't even the limit. This was just easy to set up because you can use snow layers to get like a somewhat broad perspective, but there is a pixel perfect method using cauldrons and signs to align it to what you want. And the way it works is using these snow layers. So hypothetically, let's say I want two cushions on top of each other. We go up to this height here, and then we place a second one, and then if we now place some stairs, we get the example from earlier here. Just thought it kind of looked like honey. I cobbled this together really quickly. So you're able to kind of have this weird quarter block, if you will, if that's what you decide. Now, I'm so torn on this because I, on one hand, love the idea of this. I love the idea of being able to use it to kind of customize blocks even further and essentially take a block and kind of reanimate it. The problem I have with it is mainly in the practice of the fact that, again, it kind of feels more like chiseling bits. It kind of means that you can take blocks which are see-through or aren't solid blocks, and you can customize them till they're completely unrecognizable. You can have a rainbow wall if you want. And again, people have covered this all before. I'm not necessarily saying anything new. But again, the problem is the fact that with these here, we have the full wall variety colors, and it's essentially kind of world of the color update part 2 is essentially what this is. Of course, there's other uses. You know, you've got more technical uses if you don't want to go down the building variety. Of course, we have a very old school elevator where you can get up really quickly, literally as fast as you can click. And of course, you've got traveling. You can literally click faster than, for example, minecarts or horses would ever travel. And if you get a macro, then you click really fast. Of course, there is other elements to this, and I would be kind of at a miss if I didn't kind of admit fully that I both, again, as I've said, I both love and I hate these new additions due to the fact that there is definitely room for improvement, but I also see this as a moment where Minecraft can fully implement those changes which are kind of holding it back. And then I think we would be in a much better place with these update drops, especially if they were update drops which kind of built upon one another. And people have rightfully pointed out that there have been elements which have been built off in the past, but I'm talking about very recent updates. And I do stand strong on that point. So I'm overall optimistic